Hi, I am Scott Savage, and I am the author of 18 published novels, including the Farworld series, Waterkeep, Landkeep, Airkeep, and Firekeep, the Case File 13 series, Zombie Kid, Making the Team, Evil Twins, and Curse of the Mummy's Uncle, and my newest series, Mysteries of Cove, which was a trilogy. The three books were Fires of Invention, Gears of Revolution, and Embers of Destruction. And my newest book, The Lost Wonderland Diaries, about a girl with dyslexia and a boy who's a complete book nerd who accidentally open a doorway to Wonderland and discover that there are monsters there and that they have to save Wonderland, comes out in September. So I'm super excited about talking to you about writing and making up stories. And one of the questions that I get asked the most is, how do I make my writing more real? Well, one of the great things about coming up with stories is that you can have people see the stories inside their head. Like if you ever go to the movies and you get done and the lights come back up and you're like, wow, I still feel like I was in that world. That's the same thing you can do with books. Have you ever been reading a book and you close the book and it still feels like you're in that world? Or maybe you have dreams about that, or you feel like you've seen the movie in your head. Well, that's because authors work really hard to make stories real. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk to all of my younger writers today about how to make their writing more real using senses. Sight, what you see; touch, what you feel with your hands or the wind blowing on you, or poking your finger with a cactus needle; or hearing sounds; taste, and smell. And the great things about senses is that senses pull us into stories. So if I feel the wind blowing on my face and maybe, cut my hands inside my jacket and shiver, and I smell there's a dinner cooking as I go through the doorway, and then I can just taste this great food. And maybe I hear my brothers and sisters, arguing in the other room. All of that helps to make my story more real. And so what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about how you can use senses to make your stories more real. So every story has 5 parts, and that is what is happening, where is it happening, when is it happening, why is it happening, and how it's happening. And all together, those form what we call a scene. So I'm going to be asking you questions, but you're not here to be able to answer them. And so I'll ask and then wait for you to answer, and then I'll tell you my answer, and we'll see if we answered the same thing or different. And that's all totally great. So my first question is, of these 5 parts of your story, which can you use senses to make more real? Okay. All right. How many of you said 1? Maybe like where, what you can see and hear what's happening, where it's happening. How many of you said 2? How many of you said 3? How many of you said 4? Okay, I hope none of you said 0. If you did, then no, you can use them in different parts of your story. How many of you said all 5? Okay, if you said all 5, you are right. Because every single part of a scene can use senses to make it more real to the reader. Now, if you said 1, 2, 3, or 4, that can also be right, because I can use senses in different parts of the story. So in one scene, I may only have senses in what and when. Then in another one, I have it in where and how and so forth. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a really, really weird story. Trust me, it's because I write weird stories. So we're going to do a weird story here. And I am going to have you help me put senses in the what, where, when, why, and how. So our story, we're going to start with where. It takes place in a circus. So if you've been to a circus before, you might remember what it looks like, and you can think about that. If you've never been to a circus, then I'm going to tell you it's pretty cool. It usually takes place inside a big tent that's set up, and there might be like acrobats or jugglers. There might be animals and horses and magicians and all kinds of different things taking place. And also, when you go into the tent, there are a lot of times people selling food or different things. And inside, there are people selling things like cotton candy or peanuts or whatever. So What I want you to think of for a minute is I want you to close your eyes and imagine this circus and think about the things that you might hear, smell, feel, taste. Okay, got it? All right. So let's think about this. Let's start with hearing. What are the things that you might hear if you're going to a circus? Well, you might hear the animals. You know, maybe there's an elephant that's all. That's my elephant impersonation. There might be lions. There might be music playing. Do 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 do. There might be people selling things. There might be like the crowd. Kids are like, "Can we go in yet? I'm so excited to go to the circus." So these are all things that you might hear. What might you smell at the circus? Okay, maybe you might smell animals. Yes, you might smell animal poop. There could be elephant poop. That would be something that you could smell. You might smell better things like popcorn or cotton candy or peanuts, but you might smell animals. Maybe if they cut the grass, you might smell freshly cut grass. You might smell cotton candy. So those are things you might smell. And let's see, what might you see? Okay. Well, you could see the animals and you could see the big tent. You could see different people going in. So those are all different senses that we can use with where. So our scene, our story is going to take place at a circus. That is our first part. The second part that we're going to do is when. And our story is going to take place on Taco Tuesday. Okay. So right away, what might you smell on Taco Tuesday? Yeah, probably tacos cooking, huh? Now, it could be different kinds of tacos. It could be beef tacos or fish or chicken or veggie tacos. You might smell peppers cooking. You might smell onions. You know, you kind of inhale that and maybe get the salsa and everything like that. So you definitely smell tacos. Okay. What might you hear on Taco Tuesday? Okay. Maybe you hear like the sizzling of the meat or vegetables cooking. Maybe you hear people going, "Buy my tacos, they're the best. 2 for $1, come over here." Maybe you hear someone going, "I'll get 5 tacos with extra hot sauce." Okay. All right. So we've got some senses there with our when. So let's move on to what? What is happening at the circus? And in this story, we're going to be petting skunks. Our characters are petting skunks. Why are we petting skunks? I don't know. It's your story. You're going to have to tell me, but we're petting skunks in this story. So it's at a circus on Taco Tuesday, petting skunks. So feel. What do we feel? Does the pet skunks, does their fur feel soft and kind of smooth and silky, or does it feel more like kind of spiky or rough to you? And is it like clean and shiny, or have they been playing in the dirt? Maybe it's a little bit muddy. Are there crowds next to us kind of pushing in, or is everyone like backing away and stuff? Do you feel the wind blowing? Okay, so those are all things that you might feel. What might you smell? Okay, yeah, you might smell skunks. Now, maybe it's like a good smell. Maybe it's just kind of a clean, furry, kind of like a kitten type smell, or maybe it's a really stinky smell. Okay, but you might smell that. You might smell like if they have food that they feed the skunks or something. Maybe if the grass just got cut, you might smell that. Okay, what might you hear? Well, one of my favorite things about this writing workshop is I got to search for what skunks smell like. And you want to go on the internet, or sorry, what they sound like. You want to go on the internet and search for what skunks sound like, because they really have cute sounds. They're like little kittens, like meow when they're happy and everything. So they make really cute sounds. So they might be happy skunks as you're paying them and everything. Okay, but our story is weird. So it's going to get even weirder because we're at a circus on Taco Tuesday petting skunks with a chainsaw. Okay, now, don't get like all these ideas of skunk pieces flying everywhere. I mean, it's your story, so you can do whatever you want. But in our story, they're just like gently petting them, kind of like when you get your hair trimmed. So we're not like chopping up skunks, but there's a chainsaw. So what might you hear? Well, the sound of the chainsaw, right? What might you smell? Well, maybe the skunks again, if the skunks get scared. Or maybe you might smell like if it's a gas chainsaw, you might smell like exhaust or gas or oil. Again, maybe you smell, uh, oh, I don't know, maybe people are like getting scared from the sound of the chainsaws, and so you could have that. You might feel like a chainsaw if you're holding it. It might be kind of shaking in your hand. If you're being really careful to not chop up a skunk while you pet it with it. Okay, so let's do one more, and it's the why. We are at a circus on Taco Tuesday petting skunks with a chainsaw because a tornado is coming. Now, if you know what a tornado is, if you've seen one, if you live somewhere where there are tornadoes, or if you've lived there, you know what it looks like. If you don't, a tornado is a big storm that forms kind of a funnel-shaped cloud that spins around, and it can like tear down buildings or lift things into the air. In The Wizard of Oz, if you've seen that movie, where the witch and Dorothy, they're flying around, and it's like do. Well, that's a tornado. So a tornado's coming. What might you feel? Okay, maybe like the wind blowing or rain. You might feel like leaves brushing against you. Maybe the skunks are getting pulled up, so you feel a skunk go flying by. Hopefully you don't feel a chainsaw flying by. What might you hear? Okay, maybe you can hear like the wind blowing, leaves rustling, people screaming and running away. Yeah, and you might smell maybe the like the storm coming, if you've ever smelled like the rain coming down. So yeah, so these are all things, senses that we can have. We can have the senses of what you see, what you feel, what you touch, what you taste, and what you smell, and we can use them in all the parts of our story. Now, the question we have to ask ourselves is, how many details should we include? How many senses should we put in this story? Now, I am an author, so I have written an amazing story for you. You'll love this. It's so good. You'll probably like want to read it over and over and over. And so I will read you this story. All right. One day I was going to this place. What do you think? Amazing story, right? No? You don't like my story? Why don't you like this story? It's got pretty much nothing, right? There are no senses. We can't see where we are. We can't smell where we are. We can't hear where we are. It's not describing it. We don't have any details to pull us into the story. So this is not like a movie. This is just words on a page. And it's like, so I don't know what's going on here. I'm bored. But that's okay, because as an author, I've written another story. And this one you will love. This one, I'm just going to put all the senses in. Okay, are you ready? Here we go. The sky was filled with clouds that were mostly gray, but a little bit white. Some of them were shaped like bunnies. One looked like a unicorn, but most of them just looked like gray or white clouds. It was about 2:15 on a Saturday afternoon, July the 19th. The temperature was 82 degrees Fahrenheit, 27.77 degrees Celsius. The air smelled like cut grass, car exhaust, stale brownie, which I had in my pocket, and my underwear, which I hadn't changed in 3 days. I was walking past a house with tannish brown paint, yellow shutters, and a white door. The lawn hadn't been cut in a while, and the flowers needed watering. An old lady named Mrs. Horsey Teeth lived inside. She used to work at McDonald's, but now she mostly watches TV shows about people who make cupcakes. She doesn't actually have anything to do with this story, but I thought you should know. Now, this is an exciting story, right? Don't you want to know what's going to happen to Mrs. Horsey Teeth and the stale brownies and the underwear? No? No? This doesn't, I mean, I have lots of details and lots of smells and feels and senses, some really yucky smells, kind of too much, huh? There's nothing happening in the story. There's no action. We don't know who our character is and what they're doing and why they want to do it. And we just put so many senses and details in here that there's really no story, and our readers are going to get a little bit bored. So I have a plan that I suggest, which is putting 3 details in each scene. Now, you can put more as you go further in the story, but whenever we come to a new scene, give us a sound, a smell, a taste, a touch. Give us a couple of things to pull us into the story. For example, let's say that there is a rainstorm And our scene is going to start with our character walking out the front door into the rainstorm. So what we want to do is we want to come up with 3 senses for this rainstorm. So what might we smell on a rainstorm? Yeah, maybe that smell of rain coming. Maybe the ground's getting kind of a little bit muddy or stuff like that. Maybe that kind of when the grass is really wet, there's sort of that smell. Maybe there's like a smell of like people in wet sweaters or you know, people's clothes are wet. Maybe there's like a wet dog or something that we could have. So those are all smells that we could have that would help describe this rainstorm. Okay, what might you hear in a rainstorm? Okay, maybe thunder, maybe the wind blowing, maybe the rain kind of pattering on the window or plopping against the sidewalk, or maybe we've got like a hat on and maybe it's going splat, splat, splat on our hat. Okay, so those are things that we could hear. We could hear the thunder. We could hear kids splashing in the water or things like that, or maybe our feet going as we walk through the muddy, um, the wet mud. Okay, and then finally, what might you see? Maybe rain falling or dark clouds, or maybe you see things like people in rain jackets or having umbrellas on. If we told our reader that our character walked outside and saw that everyone had their umbrellas up right away, that would help them feel more like there was the storm, huh? Okay, so we've got senses. So now we're going to play games because we've had fun, we've learned this, and I like games. And again, these are kind of weird games, but hopefully you'll like them. So what we're going to do is I'm going to tell you 3 senses, and you're going to try to guess where we are. And if you think you know early, but like after the first clue, you can guess right out loud. And if you guess it early, it just means that you're really smart. And if you guess it late, it means that maybe I'm not such a good author because I didn't give you enough good senses. All right, so let's start with the first one. Where am I? We hear cars honking. So where do you think we might be that we might hear cars honking? Okay, maybe we're on the road, maybe we're on the highway. We don't know if we're inside the car or outside the car. Maybe our mom's driving us to school, or maybe we're in the parking lot, or maybe we're just standing out in front of our house. We don't know. So let's get another sense. Okay, we smell car exhaust. Now, this helps us a little bit because we know that if we smell the car exhaust, you usually don't smell it inside the car. If you do, maybe you need a new car. So we know we're outside the car, and we might not be, we might be on a freeway, but we might be somewhere where the cars are like slower or more parked. So where do you think we might be? Okay, yeah, yeah. All right, let's add one more and see if you got it. We see grocery carts. So we hear honking horns, we smell car exhaust, and we see grocery carts. Where do you think we are? Let's see if you're right. We're at the grocery store parking lot. Is that what you guessed? Okay. All right, because that is a place where we would hear people honking, hey, get out of my spot. I need to go buy some more corn chips. Okay. We might smell exhaust because a lot of cars are kind of parked and they're starting and going. And we might see shopping carts as people come in and out of the store. All right, so those are 3 senses we might use. You might use entirely different ones, but these might be 3 senses that would make people go like, oh yeah, I can see that. All right, so let's do another one. This is a weird one. You smell something really stinky. Where might you smell something really stinky? Maybe it's your brother's stinky socks. Maybe it's like some food that you really don't like and you're like, oh, I hope we're not having that for dinner. Maybe you haven't taken a bath in a week and you're like, oh, it's me. I'm the stinky one. So it's possible. Let's look at another clue. This might help you. You feel soft white paper. Do you know where you are now? You might. Let's add one more. You hear a toilet flushing. Where do you think you are? In the bathroom. If that's what you guessed, you're right. Now you might say, why would I possibly write a story in a bathroom? But maybe you and your friend are passing secret messages. The crow flies at midnight. Meet me at the playground with 7 boxes of Twinkies. Okay? You never know. Or you might not use this thing. All right, let's do one more. See if you can guess this one. We taste soda. Where do you think we might be where we taste soda? Could be in a restaurant, could be at home. Let's add something else. We smell hot buttered popcorn. Does that give you another clue? All right, well, let's add one more clue. We see a big screen in front of us, a big movie screen, because we're at the movie theater. Exactly right. So if you guessed that, you got it. Okay, so that was kind of fun. And again, we're learning more about senses. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn it back to you, and I am going to give you 3 scenes, and we'll come up with things that you might smell, touch, or taste there. All right, so you are playing a video game. You're sitting down, you're playing your favorite video game. Let's go back there. What is something you might touch? What's something you might feel? Well, maybe it's the video controller. Maybe it has like feedback, so it's like vibrating in your hand. Or maybe you've been eating Cheetos, so maybe your hands are like slippery with Cheeto dust and it's kind of sliding around a little bit. Maybe you feel like your friend pushing against you as you guys are both, racing. Or maybe you feel like the carpet. Or maybe you feel tired because you've been playing video games for too long. What is something that you might hear? Okay, you might hear like the video game explosions or the sound effects or the music, or you might hear your mom going, "Enough video games, come back and do your chores." Or your dad going, "All right, turn the video games off." That's a possibility, right? What's something you might see? Well, depending on what video game, there might be different things happening here. You might see like someone walking behind. Maybe you're like playing your video game and suddenly your baby brother like toddles right in front of you and you're like, "Get out of my way." Okay, so anyhow, those are all possibilities that would make that more real. All right, now let's do the roller coaster. What's something you might hear on a roller coaster? Screams, yeah. Maybe like the wheels going as it's shaking around. Maybe you're going up in that part where it's like tick, 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 and you're like, "Why did I go on this ride?" Okay, what's something you might feel? Maybe the shaking of the roller coaster. Maybe like your friend next to you, like grabbing your arm. Or maybe you might feel like the wind blowing in your face. Hopefully the people in front of you didn't throw up. Then you'd feel something disgusting in your face. That would be a smell you would not like. Okay, let's go to one more. So this is a haunted house. What might you hear if you were in a haunted house? Maybe it's like ghost sounds. Maybe it's like rattling chains. Maybe there's like thunder. Maybe like the boards are creaking, or as you open the door, it's all. What's something you might see? Maybe like, I don't know, like bats flying or ghosts, or maybe like you see someone watching you in that top window up there. Yeah, so those are all cool things. Anyhow, so these are how we make our stories come more to life, by adding senses to them. And again, do what works for you. There is no right and wrong in your stories. It's your story and you're excited about telling it. But if you're looking for ways to make it a little real, then try adding sight, sound, touch, taste, and smell. And those will hopefully make your stories more real. Again, I am J. Scott Savage. If you want to visit my website, it's www.jscottsavage.com. And I will be putting these videos there, plus uploading a bunch of other stuff. And you can read the first 3 chapters of the Lost Wonderland Diaries or my other series there as well. So hope you enjoy it. Thank you.